There's a camera right there. Hey everyone, it's Manifesting Monday, and I'm getting started a bit later today because I had to take my friend Jennifer Joseph Lear to lunch for her birthday. And I have invited my sister Tonda to hang out with me today. And I did this for a couple of reasons. She's one of my favorite people on the planet. She's one of my true spiritual teachers and one of my most fun pathmates. We've been through a lot together, and I've learned so much just by virtue of her presence in my life. And so I want to share her with you. I know you've seen pictures of her, and you've seen her crawl around on my floor. If you watch some of my videos, she's fun and she's funny. She's a little bit shy, but I told her she just needs to hang out with me, and that you all are so very kind and loving, and you would welcome her with open arms. And I'm glad she stretched out of her comfort zone to be able to hang out with us here today, do a little Facebook Live together. So thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. And I'm Tonda. It's nice to meet you.
Oh yeah, this is Tonda. So I want to tell you a funny story about when we were in high school. Hi, Kathy. How are you? It's good to see you. Hi. I'm always so honored to see your bright and shiny, beautiful, smiling face with us. So when we were in high school, I was 2 years older than Tonda, so I think I'm the alpha and I'm the top dog and everything. So we get to school. I'm a junior by the time you show up, right? You're a freshman. And I'm like, I'm going to show you the ropes because I'm like cool like that. And she gets to school, and she wasn't there for very long before the seniors started asking her out. The seniors had never even looked at me, and they were asking her out.
I think it was kind of a fresh meat situation.
You can't say that. Well, she was beautiful. She was hot. She was all these amazing things. But I figured out later, by virtue of watching her, why the seniors loved her and why people love her so much. Where I was doing the tap dancing and I was in drill team and I'm trying to get the attention, and people just kind of looked past me to my sister. What I understand now is why she was so magnetic and attractive and loved by so many was because she just simply and innately and easily loved humans. She loved people. Me, however, humans have been more of an acquired taste for me. And I do authentically love human beings right now, but it wasn't something that was easy or natural. I had to do a lot of work and set a lot of intentions and clear some of my own personal issues around judgment and shame around even being human. It was an unconscious thing that I was carrying. So this is something that I've really loved witnessing my sister embody throughout our lives. And I feel like it was an innate gift for her to love people. For me, I had to work at it, but now I do love people. And I do think we all have our innate gifts, talents, abilities, propensities, and then we have our challenges. And if we say yes to those, we have the courage to work with our challenges, we can become even more bright and brilliant and beautiful in the world, live a more prosperous, abundant, joy-filled heaven on earth life. So what would you say to that, Tonda?
I would say,
I'll choke that up.
I do, that, I guess I can't take any credit really for the way people responded to me. I think that it was just a gift from God that, I came into this world just loving, it's nothing that I can take credit for.
Yeah, it was just an innate gift. And often people will come to me and they'll talk about things that they do. And I'm like, wow, that is such a gift. And they're like, well, it wasn't anything I really even had to try to do. It's just so easy. And it's easy to take our gifts for granted. And I think it's important to really consider what does come easily or natural to you, and to be able to say, this is a gift, and maybe thank God for that. I think you've probably done that. You're probably grateful at this point.
Well, absolutely. And I know that
because it's not something everybody has.
Well, yeah. And when you're given a gift, taking it for granted, I think is really disappointing, because there's so much more we can do with it. I loved people, but I was very afraid of people. I was very self-conscious, very in judgment of myself. And because of that, I was afraid people were judging me. And so I really kept to myself.
Yeah, you were trying to blend in. You were wearing penny loafers and like Oxford shirts, and I'm wearing these satin shirts with lace. My hair was huge.
Yeah, it's like I didn't want to be seen.
I wanted to be seen. And I've had to learn to dial it down, to not make it such a big deal to be seen, and you've had to get comfortable in being seen. So it's
Right.
about finding, I think, our own unique balance.
But taking those gifts and doing something with them, I think that's when God has given you a gift, I think you have a responsibility to utilize it and step outside of your comfort zone. And, before where I would shy away from people, now, I mean, I love them to death. I make an effort to express myself to them or to engage with them, or, it's like taking that gift kind of to the next level.
Is that why you said yes to this today? Because I was actually surprised. I thought for sure she would say absolutely not. She's like, okay, I'll be there. I was a little stunned.
Well,
It's very courageous for you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It really was. But no, you know what? There's nothing I wouldn't do for you.
Oh, well, that's very
And I
sweet.
just admire and respect. And if you guys could have seen the Tammy that I grew up with, who's
Wasn't pretty.
well, that's not true. She's always been gorgeous and glorious and amazing and my best friend. But her growth has just been so monumental. And she was kind of spiky.
I was a
for a few
narcissist.
years. Yeah. And the growth that I've seen has just been, there was kind of an element of fake it until you make it. I knew that she was on a path of discovery and just really, really trying to connect with God and just trying to find her place in this world. And for a while, it kind of looked like she's saying the right things, but it was a journey and it was a process. And you have become one of the most solid, spiritual, wonderful, loving presences in my life.
Well, you've been an inspiration for me. I have watched you for years. She would do these wonderful things, and she still does. She does a lot of volunteer work for the senior care facility. She'll go play bingo with them and do art with them. I'm like, what are you doing? But she's just so loving. And it reminds me of the Mother Teresa quote. There are no great things, but there are small things done with great love. And my sister has always done such beautiful, sweet, and loving things, not for the glory of it, not for the audience, not because you want your ego fed. You do it in a quiet way. She donates anonymously to charities and situations and people, and you do it in an under the radar way, which is so different than how I've been in the world. And it's very dignified. You have a very refined way about you, and I'm trying to learn a little bit more about how to become more like my sister.
I don't think Tammy has ever called me dignified or refined before, because nobody knows me like Tammy does.
Yeah, I do know
But,
some secrets that we won't be sharing
But
here.
you know how interesting, though, that two sisters that have spent, a half a century together can be so different and so alike with such different gifts and spread them in different ways. It's just, but I think our spiritual connection with God and certainly with each other.
But it wasn't always easy. I mean, there were certain times in our lives it was very, very challenging. We were competitive, and I don't even think it was a conscious thing. I think that's maybe sometimes just how siblings are. We look to one another to know more about who we are. We look to our relationships to be like mirrors and to have a sibling to compare and to compete with. It was an interesting dynamic. And there were periods of time we didn't get along that well. There were periods of time we didn't speak for a long time. And that was
tough.
It was very tough. But I think it was also important because it was about differentiating. It was about creating autonomy, because we had been maybe a little bit enmeshed and the boundaries were a little bit blurry.
Yeah.
To be able to take that step back and really find our own authentic shape, which I think is important whether you have siblings or not, to relax into your authentic shape, to align with your soul self, and to figure out where your boundaries are. Who are you? I've talked about this a lot. Know thyself, which is such important wisdom and advice from our spiritual teachers, from the philosophers. Know thyself. And I think that's more than just knowing your personality and your likes and your dislikes, but also set the intention to know yourself on a soul level, which is much more expanded because we're aspects of the infinite. So that has been quite the journey. And something you said, Tonda, is very true. Sometimes I think we may know we need to make changes, and maybe we read books or we go to teachers, or for me, I go to an astrologer or a counselor, and things kind of resonate and make sense. And so maybe you repeat what you've heard. But sometimes I think we need to open our mind to things intellectually, at least initially, until it starts to soak in, before it can really start to soak in and imbue all the way to our very core self. So to fake it till we make it sometimes is the case. I say often we have to crawl before we walk, before we run, before we fly. It takes a long time to make certain things look easy and comfortable, especially if you're dealing with challenges. And so for me to learn to love people completely unconditionally and immensely has been a journey. People that meet me now are like, oh my gosh, you're the most loving, generous, thoughtful, intuitive person I've ever met. And I'm like, well, you didn't know me when. They're like, I can't imagine. I'm like, oh, don't talk to my sister.
That's not true. I mean, you've always been loving, but I think you were in so much fear that it was hard for you to present that to the outside world.
Well, and I think that's a really good point. I think fear can, I don't know if inspire is the right word, but prompt us to behave in certain ways that maybe aren't the most attractive. And for me, my fear looked like something I call pretty girl syndrome. Like I would wear a lot of makeup and my hair and my outfits. It's like the analogy I would use is like a box, a present, a wrapped up present with a lot of ribbons and bows, but not really believing that there's an important or a valuable gift on the inside. So I did a lot of false masking without even being aware that this was a deeper issue. Like my fear was covered up with a lot of just
whistles and bells.
Whistles and bells. And I think your fear manifested differently in that you wanted to hide a little bit more.
Absolutely.
So it is interesting to consider, what is it that we're afraid of? I was afraid of not being seen. I was afraid of not being loved. I was afraid of not being understood. But I finally realized I need to see, understand, and recognize myself. So what have your lessons been around this?
You know, I think, I think you've said it. It really is about self-love.
Yeah.
However that presents to other people, whether it's, in being a little too over the top or being too reserved or, however
Yes.
we protect
Yes.
ourselves. But I know that for me, that self-love was the greatest impetus for growth for me. And the
Yes.
changes, that I've made and the changes that you have made have come from that point of learning to love ourselves unconditionally.
Yes.
And really to set the intention to love yourself the way God loves you. And if you are that lovable to God, and each and every single one of us are or is, how could we not love ourselves? If he sees so much joy in the perfection that each one of us is, with all of our, perfect imperfection, how can we not? But I tell you, the inspiration to be the best child of God is what propels me each day.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, because sometimes self-love can look like coming from ego. And that was me. I came from ego. And I think the ego can make you want to be seen, to get the acknowledgement of other people. And the ego can have you play small.
Yeah.
So when we decide to love ourselves, not from the ego or the personality, but from the soul level, to know thyself and to love ourselves as exquisite, beautiful souls that our Creator has breathed life into. And I love the saying, and if you've hung out with me at all, you've heard me say it, I'm sure. All of God's children are special, and none of God's children are special, because we're all made of the same stuff. And I read that and it resonated, but it took me a while for me to really, truly accept and embody that. And as I did, being around other people became more of a joy, not because I need to show off or compete, but because I can be in my loving and just love other people, knowing that we're the same stuff. And sometimes I meet people that maybe don't understand this or know this or believe this, and maybe they're still coming from competition, but that's okay. I now have compassion rather than it provoking that competitive thing in me. I don't want to play too big. I don't want to play too small. I just want to be who I am and be in my loving. And some people think I'm too spiritual, and other people think I'm not religious enough. And we were having this conversation earlier, the judgment that sometimes comes up, and Tonda's like, you just do you. You're just doing fine. And I think that's great advice for me, for you, for anyone hanging out with us. Just be you.
Bottom line is we can't please everyone, but are we pleasing God?
Yes.
Are we acting in integrity? Are we,
Mm.
you know, it's like, I know that I'm not going to make everybody happy all the time. And I still struggle with that because I am a people
You're a
pleaser.
people pleaser.
But I do know that if I keep my side of the street clean
Take care of your
and
side of the road.
yeah,
Well, and this is something that I've really worked with too, because I would say I'm essentially a recovered people pleaser. My preference is that people like me. But in the past, one of my spiritual teachers says, your biggest problem is that you want everyone to like you. And I said, well, what's wrong with that? Doesn't everybody want that? She goes, it's none of your business. And I think too often, if we're trying to get human beings' approval, we're missing the real relationship that we should be considering, contemplating, and taking responsibility for. So now when people don't like me, I don't take it personally. It doesn't hurt my feelings like it used to devastate me. I would get so depressed I wouldn't leave my house. I wouldn't wear makeup. I'd wear baseball caps trying to hide because I didn't want to upset anybody. So I kept playing smaller until I realized this isn't good for me either. So to just be able to stand in our light and know that God loves us no matter what. We don't need the approval of other human beings. But the funny thing happens when we do start to really enjoy being ourselves, love ourselves, and accept ourselves from that perspective of our soul self and spirit. We really seem to attract people that think we're the bee's knees. They think we're amazing. We really find the right people. So we're not contorting ourselves for the people that don't love us. We're being ourselves and naturally attracting the people that do love us. And we're not slowing down for those that are maybe in judgment or hating us. Like we're not trying to convince them any longer that, no, I'm really okay.
well, and when you
That's
get to
a
that
relief.
point, yeah, when you get to that point, people can trust what they get from you. You know, if you learn to say no to somebody, you know, in a loving way.
Boundary.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can say almost anything with love. That was such a relief when I read that somewhere.
Yeah.
You can say almost anything and maybe everything with love. So that makes it easier to say no, or that doesn't resonate for me without having to come up with excuses that aren't the truth.
But that, like I said, that way people will know that when you respond to them, that that you're honest and that you're solid. And
I'm reading Gina. She says, I love the expression, you do you, in context of acknowledging another's passion.
hi, Gina.
Hi, Gina. Yeah, you do you. And stop worrying about what other people think. Just do you, and you will attract the right people. I've talked about this in my book a lot. The third theory. A third of the people in the world are going to love you. A third are going to be indifferent. A third are going to hate you. And where we are within ourselves determines who we attract and who we're attracted to. So if somebody hates themselves, they're going to be vibrating in such a way that they're going to attract other people that are abusive and unkind.
Absolutely.
And if you're on the fence about you, you're going to find yourself jumping through hoops for crumbs. I did that a lot. If you love yourself, you're naturally going to attract and be attracted to people that love you, because you're not going to slow down. You're not going to waste your time trying to convince somebody you're amazing, because you know you're an amazing person, and that's who you end up attracting and resonating with. So it's never about the out there. I have a lot of people complaining about how they're being mistreated. It's like, well, pull your energy back and treat yourself the way you want to be treated. And then it becomes, that other person becomes a non-issue. And what I find often is that other person shifts and they can come back and start to be kinder, or they may just go away. You know, one of my favorite sayings,
that's okay too.
Shift happens, fork off. I think I made that up.
That's not the way she really says it. But
well, today for Facebook Live, we're keeping it G and PG.
I think one thing that I've said to myself almost daily for probably the last 10 years is it's none of my business what you think about me. It's none of my business. And
that's good, Gina.
Just like you said, some people will go away, and that's okay, as long as I know that my side of the street is clean and that I'm acting in honesty and in love and compassion and integrity. The people that want to be a part of what I represent, that want to be a part of my life, will be there. And the ones
absolutely.
the ones that I'm not fitting and meshing or molding into their needs will kind of slip away, and that's absolutely okay. It's about quality.
And I am so proud of you, because I saw for so many years you contorting yourself for the needs of so many. And there was hardly anything left of you for a while. I was very worried about you. So for you to have come this far and pull your energy back and be able to take care of your relationship with you and be proud of yourself, that's something that's new. And Gina was just bringing this up. You can be proud of yourself. It's extremely liberating if we're a parent for our children. And I think it's extremely liberating for us to be able to say that for, to, and within ourselves, and to be able to receive that acknowledgement from our Creator. Quite often when I meditate, I'll ask God if He has a message. And what I hear frequently is, you are the child in whom I am well pleased. And I'm not unusual in this. I think He says that to all of us, that can we hear that? Can we believe that? Can we receive that?
Well, I want to say that on this planet, you have been one of my greatest teachers in teaching me how to love myself.
Really?
You really have been. And just your wisdom, your compassion, your just open heart and loving me when I couldn't love myself has just been extraordinary.
Well, I do think you've been one of my greatest gifts. I said, God must love me because He gave me a Tonda. I hope everyone here has someone that they can talk to and relate with and listen to and have the deep conversations with and maybe laugh your buns off. Sometimes
we do that.
Embarrassing ways. We do laugh a lot. But it was interesting. For a while we didn't speak. We had to take a break from one another, and I was trying so hard to help her and heal her. And as a kid, I would pull her around in my little green wagon. I was like, please let me pull you around. Let me take care of you. And she goes, you need to fuck off and let me find my way. And I was like, and I was so hurt. In fact, sometimes I think when we deal with things that hurt us deeply, either through grief or sadness or depression, I had bronchitis for like 3 or 4 months because of that pain. But it was time for me to pull my energy back and take care of my relationship with myself and with Source and let her find her way. She goes, that's just it, Tammy. You found your way. You need to let me find my way. And it was painful, but it was also a gift. And the really amazing thing is that she did find her way. And I really didn't know if we were going to be close again. I didn't know if we were ever going to be partners in crime like I felt we were when we were young. I really had to surrender you and trust that God had you. I couldn't fix her. I couldn't heal her. I couldn't take responsibility for her.
And I love you for trying.
I would have done anything.
But who of us hasn't tried to heal somebody, hasn't tried to help somebody, hasn't tried to fix a problem when we know that they're the one that has to fix it,
Yeah, that's something my teachers would say. You have to let people have the dignity of their process, even though it doesn't look very dignified, maybe from our perspective. God is in each and every one of us. And we all have, just like our talents and talents is, articulating isn't one of mine all the time. We have our talents, we have our challenges. We also have our very individual, unique spiritual curriculum. And we don't know what another soul is trying to learn. And even if you're super close, you could be an identical twin, you still don't know what their contract is between them and their Creator. And so when I was trying to take care of her connection to God and heal her, it was such a gift that she told me to F off, because I needed to really go deeper in my connection to God and realize this is God's child. God's breathing her. God's in her too. And I do believe in the power of prayer, just sending her light for her highest good. And I know you've done that for me when I've gone through some really challenging terrain. And I do believe that miracles have happened. They have occurred by virtue of those prayers, sending other people light. And it can be hard and scary to just step back and love them and let them have their process. But I also think it's a very important thing to do, and it's liberating for us to be able to pull our energy back and to take responsibility for our side of the road, take care of our garden, and allow God to do His work and create His miracles in another's life.
Hear, hear.
So let's see what some of the people are saying here. Kathy, what about your family? Such two sisters. They have the looks, but I have the love and compassion in my heart. Well, I think, what about what your family thinks? Does that mean your family doesn't think certain things? You have beauty and such an exquisite heart, Kathy. And I think each and every one of us is so exquisitely beautiful from the perspective of the divine. I think that that's such an important thing none of us are more or less important from the perspective of God. No one is more or less beautiful from the perspective of our creator. Yeah, human beings might have standards, but those aren't the standards that matter the most. And yes, Kathy, you do have an amazing, compassionate heart. One of the kindest and innately sweethearts, other than my sister, that I've ever met. Oh, Gina, I love you so much. So good to have you here with us. You are the child in whom God is well pleased. And that is true. If you see me, or if you're hearing my voice, you are the child in whom God is well pleased. So what brought us close together? I think we were inherently close together, but we were a little enmeshed. And when I went on my healing journey and Tonda told me to fuck off, and I went and took responsibility for my healing, she took responsibility for her healing. We came back together with clearer boundaries and a real appreciation of ourselves and each other.
Absolutely.
We don't always have to agree, and that's okay. We're not threatened by that. There's no more, it doesn't feel like there's any more competition. It's about lifting each other up all the time. But I think it's because we love ourselves and we allow spirit to lift us up. I'm not looking for her to fill up my tank any longer, and I don't believe you look for me. I mean, sometimes we want to talk, and you always apologize for venting. It's never a problem, but I don't feel like we drain each other because we're not trying to get something from the other. Where in the past, I kind of did. My tank is filled by virtue of my connection to God. That's why I meditate every morning, because I want God to pour down his blessings and grace on me. I want to be able to receive that. So I show up in my life giving from a place of abundance and overflow. And it also helps me to be very discerning about how much I give and to whom. I'm more of a vibrational match for the people that are in my closer bullseye than I used to be, because I know myself more. And I'm receiving God's love in a way that is so, I don't know, it's substantial, and it's palpable, and it's real, and it's authentic. And it is. And I think each and every one of us has that opportunity to relax and let God love on you, so that you're not looking to another human being to reflect you back to you the way you want to perceive yourself, or to get the kudos from a mere mortal. To be able to really take responsibility for your relationship with yourself and source, I think that's the absolute most important thing I've done in my life so far. And I think that's what you were kind of saying earlier, that self-love that comes from our connection to source. So important. And I believe everything we want comes from that, because our lives are simply a mirror and reflection of our connection or disconnection to God. As we take care of our relationship to that something greater, the mirror of our life, which is our relationships, our prosperity, our health, that mirror will be reflecting back to you more beauty, more grace, more joy, more synchronicity as you take responsibility for that something greater, that relationship with that something greater. Oh no, Gina, I'm sorry to hear that. She's in the F off phase. It's not an easy one, but it can be a gift. It really, really can. And we've talked about this before. Instead of saying, why is this happening to me? If you're really confused about something that's happening in relationship, why is this happening for me? And what I got was, when I asked myself that when we were going through our challenges, it was about me becoming more authentically myself, becoming more free. Because I had so wanted to be a caretaker and a healer for other people. And what I got was, I can't even rescue my little sister, who has been my best friend my whole life. I couldn't even rescue her. And God said, exactly. You can't rescue anybody. Yeah. You can't rescue anybody. All you can do is take responsibility for your side of the road, for your garden, pull your weeds, plant your seeds, take care of your garden. Don't worry about going to anybody else's garden and telling them what to do unless they ask. And then when your garden flourishes, people will ask you, how did you do that? Right? It's a very liberating way to live. And I highly recommend it. So if you're struggling in any kind of relationships, if you're needing any support or help, I have a guided meditation about boundaries, like pulling your energy back, taking care of your relationship to something greater. If you want that, let me know, and I will email that to you as my heart gift to you. And Tonda, is there anything else you want to say before we've been here for half an hour? She was so afraid because I said, we're going to go for at least 15 minutes. She's like, what? It's a long time. I said, it goes so fast once we start connecting with our friends here. It really is such a gift.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to overcome a fear of mine.
It wasn't that bad, right?
No, thank you guys for inviting me in to join you today.
And Kathy, I can't believe anybody could ever look down on you. I think you are one of the most precious, pristine angels I know. So don't take that on, because it's not the truth. Yes, health crisis too. I love you, Gina. I love you, Kathy. Such a beautiful audience that we have with us. Oh my gosh, we are so blessed to have you here. And please be in touch and let me know if you want the guided meditation about boundaries. And look at all the hearts. Look at all the love, Tanya. It's not so bad. It's so nice. So just know that you are in our hearts and our prayers, that we meditate every morning and we're sending you blessings of grace, ease, joy, peace, great love, and that you really get to know yourself on a soul level and know God adores you. You are a precious princess, prince. You're priceless. You're extraordinary. You're perfect in your imperfection. Absolutely. Take good, gentle care of yourself. Please be in touch. Let me know if you want that guided meditation. And you can be in touch on the thread. You can private message me, email me at TammyBPhD. And friend request Tonda if you're not, because she's a good time. So God bless you. Take good, gentle care of yourself. And I hope to hang out with you again next Monday. God bless you. Onward and upward.
Bye.
Bye for now. There's George. He's so loving. Hi, Sandy. I love you. Let's talk soon. It's hard to say goodbye.